kind of a crazy start to 2021, but let's just take it as it is and move forward and hope the rest of the year goes smoothly. I know a lot of you are having white winters. I have to tell you, today I think it's going to be 72 Long Beach. So I will bring some.
Right. That's just not right.
Well, somebody has to live in it, you know. So I will bring some of my sunshine to you through this training. So hopefully it'll warm all of you up and you can enjoy what we pay for to live here in Southern California. So our training today is on virtual accreditation visitor. And just to give you a kind of a best practices and an opportunity to ask questions and just to share some of the experience that I had when I did the visit a couple months ago now, I guess it was, with Southern Connecticut, just to try to help you along with ways to make this work smoothly for you since we're not in person. So what I am going to do is share my screen with you, and then we'll start working through the slides. And then as we go through each area, I'll stop and ask if there are any questions. And then if you have questions, I believe you put them in the chat. Is that correct, Britt? Okay, put your questions in the chat, and then Britt or Shelley will stop me and let me know that questions going on. So let me start the share screen. Make sure I do the right one. This has been such a learning curve. Trying to do the Zoom training. And then when I have my screen, I don't have access to see what all my slides look like. So anyway, welcome. We'll go ahead and get started. Today we're going to talk about scheduling virtual visits. I'm going to give examples of kind of a layout of a visit. We'll talk a little bit about a point of contact. I'll also talk about how to view the 6.0 standards. I really want to share information with you about Zoom fatigue, and then we'll have time for you to ask questions at the end. So from a purpose for scheduling virtual visits, it's really critical to make contact with the program accreditation lead as early as possible. And that means once you receive approval from council to move forward with the visit, then it's a good opportunity to start communicating with that lead to try to get that schedule going. All scheduled visits are for a full week, and you can take advantage of that full week by spreading the visit out. This is an advantage to a virtual visit versus an in-person visit. There really isn't any financial cost for you to spread the visit out over 3 or 4 days, potentially even for the full week if you had. The purpose of that is because availability of administration or availability of sitting in on classes or availability of faculty and pulling people together. So you can spread it out a little bit further into the week than just trying to put everything in 2 full days. And with contacting the program lead early, in my experience, and this has been the way it was in in-person visits as well, but the opportunity to be able to let them put administration's time in the schedule as early as possible at the beginning of the visit and the end of the visit, and then everything else gets filled in between. So that's one of the purposes for doing that. And then it's important to send a sample virtual visit schedule to the program lead. When I did the visit recently with Southern Connecticut, I actually sent an email that had suggested amounts of times for each of the components of the visit. And so a Zoom call with a certain administrator could only take 15 or 20 minutes. It's not a super long Zoom call, and that helps them understand that there isn't going to take a big chunk of their day. I will share some of this with you towards the end of the slides, just to show you recommendations on the amount of time for each of the components of the visit. And then the last part of this particular slide talks about being aware of time zones. If you're, as an example, in California and you're doing a visit in Connecticut and they have a 9 a.m. class or an 8:30 a.m. class that they want to schedule, that's fine. 8:30 a.m. on Connecticut time is wonderful. However, for a visitor who is out in California, that means you're doing your visit at 5:30 a.m. So it's just something to be aware of, that that could happen. It did happen to us when we did the Connecticut visit. There were 2 occasions where 8 a.m. And 8:30 a.m. Components were scheduled, and so I got up early. But be aware of time zones, just as a point of matter. And if there's ways to try to rearrange the schedule for whatever component that is, then that's up to you as a visitor and up to the program. But I recommend trying to look at doing that if it's going to impact from the time zone perspective. So just to give a brief overview of kind of a 3-day visit, and this is a full 3 days spread throughout the full 3 days, visiting with program administration, just to kind of get your feet wet with this, visiting with the dean, faculty, visiting with campus assessment individuals, and then the president and the provost. And in this particular case, this was I put sample, but Connecticut, the actual provost and president, they weren't available till the end of the day. Well, actually it was lunchtime, or no. Yeah, it was, I can't remember. But anyway, it was, oh, you know, this is Connecticut time. So it was 4 o'clock their time they were available. That's the other side of the story. Later afternoon meetings there, by the time it's finished, if you're out in California, you're finished around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So that's kind of nice in a way, because it gives you the rest of the day to be able to get stuff done. The other purpose of showing this sample schedule is to give you ideas on what can be sent to the program, as far as looking at sending the schedule, the topic, the participants, and then at the actual Zoom link. And I'll go into this in a minute with you with the Zoom link, but it has the actual link and the meeting ID and passcode. And by doing this, then whoever is scheduled for this particular meeting with you and the team can actually just click on the link that's already put into the schedule, and it's a live link, so that they have the opportunity to get into the meeting at that point in time right there. So day 2 could consist of meeting with a couple of classes, again, having a chance to talk with the core faculty about their 7.0 series, if that's how you want to set up your meeting. And then doing a wrap up and a follow up with the program chair and accreditation lead. So day 2 started at 9:30 Eastern time and ended at 4:30 Eastern time. So that gives you a good idea of kind of the spread of the day, and everything is spread out over a full day. This also takes into consideration if there are other things in the visitors' schedules that aren't as flexible. And so this allows other meetings and other programmatic things for people who are the visitors and or the program to be able to do as well in between, since you're not visiting straight through like we do on a in-person visit, where it's nonstop from 7:30 a.m. till 7:00 p.m. So this actually, a virtual visit is not nearly as exhausting from that standpoint. And an example of day 3 is, again, meeting with students, talking with alumni, internship supervisors, talking to core faculty, again, and for 7 series. And then I'll talk a little bit about a virtual campus tour. And then, as you can see, 4 and 5 p.m. on Eastern time were the schedules for the administration exit review, as well as the faculty exit review. So again, 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. Eastern time, but that was also spread out throughout the day to be able to allow you to have breaks in between. So I'm going to share one other piece with the schedule. So pardon me while I go to share my screen. I think I need to go off of share, and then I'll go back into sharing again. So this is a little bit, this is a greater schedule that we used on our end as the visitors, but you can see that, and I shared this with the program lead, but on the Excel sheet here, you can see that there's more information on here about the purpose of the visit. So maybe there's an overview of the visit, last minute scheduling needs. You're letting each group know what the purpose of this is. And then can you see on the far right-hand side under notes, this is a great place for you to work with your team and share these notes with them about, we really need to make sure these are the specific things that we're talking about, or looking for more validation on during the visit. So that's just a different way of sharing information, not only with the program, but also with the team. So you can use this type of Excel spreadsheet to do that. And I believe, Shelley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this sample schedule is up on the COAPRT website. So individuals can see it. And if it's not, I'm happy to share this with anybody that would like to have it. And you can just email me and I can send it to you. Okay, so let me go back.
So Patty, we do have a question. I'm sorry, Meredith, we have a question.
Okay.
The question is, how do you differentiate between primary and secondary meetings? That was posted in the chat.
Perfect. So primary is identified in what I used primary for is the meetings that need to take place at the very beginning of the visit. And those are the meetings with the full faculty, the program chair, accreditation lead, the dean of the college, and then university administration. Those are the primary people that you want to meet with to start off the meeting. And the secondary meetings are those other meetings that are going to help you identify how to look at all of the various standards. So let me go back and share my screen again. I think that's the right one. Okay, so moving forward. So my recommendation on the virtual meetings is all of the Zoom meetings should be scheduled by the lead visitor. And the reason I say this is because you then become the host of the Zoom meetings. So you can control the access on when you go into the Zoom meetings and when the Zoom meetings end. My experience was that the team and I would come into the Zoom meetings usually 15 minutes early to be able to have time to ask last minute questions of each other before we went into the scheduled meeting. And then when the Zoom meetings ended, we were able to stay online as the program members would go off, and then we could do follow-up. So by you being the host as the visitation lead, it gives you the control over when those meetings happen. And you want to work with the program contact for the scheduling and distribution of the links. So by allowing the program contact to actually send those links out to administration or to the dean or to the classrooms where you're going to visit or the student groups, and so that they're distributing that Zoom link on their end to everybody that it needs to go to, and it leaves you out of doing that. So it also makes it a little bit easier on your end, and they can send it out to them in advance or send them out to everyone the day of, or however they want to do it on their end. But that way it's a lot easier for you because the meetings are set up, and then everybody on the program's end is able to get the Zoom links as it's needed. Another
Meredith, we have more questions, a little bit of chatter happening about Zoom accounts and whose account is it appropriate to use. And then there's WebEx accounts. So maybe at this point we can, if you have a response or if people can unmute and then clarify further what they're asking, that'd be good.
You know, here's the interesting thing. Most campuses, most programs, universities and systems have Zoom accounts. That seems to be one of the regular go-tos for the virtual meetings and communication. There are also other programs that have WebEx and some of the other virtual meeting systems, but in my experience, Zoom worked better. I've tried Google Meet with a couple of people, and it just didn't have as many, if you want to say, bells and whistles as Zoom does. So it's kind of up in the communication with the lead of the visit and then the campus program to find out a mutually agreed upon type of meeting platform that you're going to use.
Meredith, this is Deb Jordan. My university, as well as several others, I see people popping it up here. We do not support Zoom. We use either Microsoft Teams or WebEx. Both of them, the targeted university, if you will, can access through their browser. So they do not have to have those programs in order to access the meetings. So I would suspect that we use whatever platform our home institution supports so that we can actually contact the folks that we're working with at the schools we're visiting.
Right. And so you just have to figure out who has what platform and be able to figure out what way is going to work best for that. Thanks, Deb. That's a good point. I think that one of the other recommendations that I have is that the program contact that you're working with is at the beginning of all of your, and I'm using Zoom as my example then, as in all of your Zoom meetings, only because there's a level of familiarity with that person, with the other participants when you're meeting. And so by them coming into the Zoom meeting, doing quick introductions and then jumping off makes it a lot more smooth. And then I already shared about coming in early and staying afterwards for the team to be able to have opportunities to have conversations and follow up and little bit of chat time to be able to talk about what's happening. So somebody asked earlier about primary and secondary. And so just to give you an example of suggested time allotments in the primary and secondary areas, for usually the meetings that happen before all the other meetings, as I said, are the primary meeting with full faculty introductions. Back in the day with the in-person visits, sometimes this happened the first evening when the visitors would get there and you have a time to get together with the faculty kind of informally. That first visit virtually can be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, and it's more of just an introduction so that faces are familiar as they're coming in and out of various meetings. The meeting with the university president, provost, or other administration needs to only take about 15 or 20 minutes. And this really is that first meeting of just letting them know why you're doing this visit, what COAPRT is, and just kind of a quick overview of the visit. Same thing happens with the dean of the college. You get 15, 20 minutes is plenty of time, so it's not bogging down their entire schedule for a long period of time. And then the chair of the department, same thing, a 30 to 45 minute opportunity for them to ask questions of you, as well as you to maybe specifically ask for more questions about some of the other information you might need for the visit. From the secondary pieces, if you're meeting with student club members, 45 to 60 minutes is plenty of time. It depends upon how many students that they have actively engaged in this conversation. It could go a little bit longer. Again, by you having the virtual meeting under your own account, it gives you the opportunity to allow the meeting to run longer if it needs to. Classes, visits into classes in person would take usually, a half to 3/4 of the actual class time. So 45 to 60 minutes is plenty of time to step in virtually into a class and be able to ask questions. My experience with doing this has been that the students were very shy at first to be able to speak up and answer questions from the visitors, but familiarity with us, because some of the same students were in 2 of the virtual meetings, and so the familiarity with us on the second meeting became kind of a door that opened so that they were more open to be able to communicate with us and answer questions. Alumni and internship supervisors was 45 to 60 minutes. It's just long enough to ask questions specific to the standards and to get an idea on how that relationship is working with that program. Working with the faculty and the various degrees for the 7.0 series, sitting down with sitting down virtually with the faculty to talk about the various standards and the aspects of their program and curriculum that are meeting those standards, anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And that's going to depend on your review of their 7.0 series standards. It could be a lot less if their standards are set up so that you're able to walk through them very easily. So that just depends. Meeting with the campus assessment coordinator, 30 to 45 minutes is plenty of time to talk about the 2.0 standards as well as the 7.0 standards and how the program does campus assessment. And then the campus tour. So I'm going to try to be real tech savvy right now and share with you. Maybe it's the next slide, so let me keep going. But I'll give you an idea of what a campus tour can look like, hopefully. And then any additional standards that need to be addressed, you can schedule small meetings for those as well. Your exit meetings, scheduled at the end of the week or the end of all the other visit components that have taken place. And when you're meeting with the provost or president, again, this is a 30 to 45 minute meeting. Doesn't have to take a super long amount of time, just enough for you to kind of do an overview of how the visit went, as well as meeting with the faculty. The one thing that I did notice on a virtual meeting versus an in-person meeting is that everything seemed to go faster. There wasn't as much lag time in a lot of the meetings. You didn't have the time to have to walk between buildings or go to different places on the campus. And the time in between all of the different meetings on an in-person visit is just packed with getting stuff gathered because you have such a short time visit. But virtually, you have the ability to spread things out as long as the program has, the opportunity to spread out the visit a little bit longer. So it doesn't have to happen in that 2 or 2.5 day time slot. It can actually happen in a few days longer if it needs to. So just a couple of other pieces. My recommendations on virtual visits is to establish one main point of contact for the campus or for the program, and that individual is the person that you are going to be working with throughout the whole visit. And it is the chair or lead of the visit that's the person that's contacting that campus individual. So you're working with them on the virtual platform links, you're working with them with scheduling and everything that takes place. And then that individual, again, like I shared earlier, my experience is that if you allow that person to share those Zoom links on their end to everybody on the campus end that they need to, it makes it a lot smoother. And there aren't any questions about how that works. So you're not worried about making sure to get email addresses and being able to put people in for the virtual meetings. So how do you view the 6.0 standards? This is where it became kind of questionable and difficult at first to figure out how do you validate that they're meeting all these standards. So I don't remember who gave this suggestion a long time ago, but it was have them make a short video, and that video could be set up so that it gives you a campus tour. So you get to see the classrooms and the offices and the conference rooms, labs, teaching areas, resources for library, computer labs and so forth. So let me see if I can get this to work. So now, hang on. We'll see if I can get this to work. Let me share my screen again. Sorry, I am not as tech savvy as I think I am. I guess we could ask if there are any questions right now while I'm going into this next piece. Okay, let me see if I can do this. Where is that screen? Oh no, I've lost my screen. Sorry. Sometimes you think you're tech savvy and then you realize you really aren't.
Meredith,
Yeah.
at one point, we actually saw the video.
You have seen this video of
No. It popped up before you stopped sharing your screen. It had popped up.
Ah. Well, now I have to figure out how to get back to that. Let me try this. Thank you for telling me that because I didn't know. Where did you go? I've lost all of you. Oh, isn't that funny? Oh gosh. I have 3 screens going and they're not allowing me to get back in. Do you have it again?
I hear it. So we're not seeing it, Meredith.
Okay, hang on.
You
I
can try.
can't get it to stop. Ugh. All right, so let me get into. I gotta get back into sharing the screen, but I can't get back into my Zoom.
Is it the link that's on the PowerPoint, right?
It is. So, you know, actually we can
I
send this PowerPoint out to everybody or put the link in the chat.
Yeah, or I can share my screen, Patty. I've got it up on one of my browsers. Let's see. Why don't we try that?
Okay. Sorry, everyone. I don't know where you went.
Share sound. Okay, we'll give this a try. Is that working?
Yes.
Okay.
agree that the mission, vision, and vision and values that are posted. Thanks, Britt. All right, I just have a couple of more slides to share with you, but as you can see, the person who put together the video was actually one of their students, and they did a great job. They really put together a nice example of their campus, and it was able to give us a good understanding of all of their different components that we needed to look at in their 6.0 series. So that's just an example that was put together. So I wanted to just take a little bit of time to talk about Zoom fatigue. This is something that's kind of become a buzzword, but any virtual platform, we find that if we're on this for too long, that we find ourselves zoning out. So you really want to make sure to make your schedule spread out enough that it gives you time within in between meetings to not be on the computer or be able to get up and walk around or move around or do what you need to do in between bathroom breaks and so forth. I would encourage your team and you and your campus program members, when you're visiting with them, to stand as much as possible during those meetings, just to be able to not be seated in a same place the whole time. Try not to schedule too many meetings in a row. 2 in a row is fine, but if you schedule everything back to back from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., you're going to find that you're going to lose people by the end of the meeting. And it's okay to spread those meetings out throughout the week. It doesn't have to happen starting at 8 a.m. on Monday and end by 5 p.m. on Tuesday. I mean, you literally have the benefit of spreading those meetings out a little bit further into the week. So use that to your advantage. And now we'll go with questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen. So what questions do any of you have? And I'm okay if we do voice questions, Britt. Does that bother? I'd rather do that because try to read is too difficult. So if you have a question.
Hey, Meredith, it's Sid. Just a quick one. I think I heard you say you're going to share the PowerPoint. Are you also going to be sharing you had two different sample schedules. One was kind of formatted for the PowerPoint, so I guess that'll be there. And then the spreadsheet as well. I was thinking that could also be helpful if that were available on the website.
Yeah, I will give both of those to Britt, and then she can put them up on the website so everybody has access and cut and paste.
Yeah. No, that'll make a great template. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This was great, by the way. I think, despite the technical challenges, I think this was very informative. I had one other quick question. Something that came to mind is that normally, and the way that you went through the primary meetings, you talked about scheduling separate meetings with the president and the dean, and then probably the program chair, and then the faculty. And I was wondering if, given the nature of being able to do things virtually, would it make sense to potentially combine any of those meetings? For example, the president, provost, and dean perhaps as one meeting versus separate meetings.
In my experience, and this is also with in-person meetings, oftentimes I separate those out at the beginning because the meeting with the dean may have specific programmatic questions that you can ask the dean that has to do with equity of resources for faculty and program. And those are things that you don't really want to be asking the president and provost of the same type questions. And the second part of that is at the end, when you're doing the exit meetings, hang on, Joanne, I'll get you in just a second. When you do those exit meetings, that's when you can combine everybody. So you're giving all of administration one exit meeting at the same time, and that's fine to do it that way. But my experience has always been to separate those out at the very beginning, only because you have other questions that you want to ask of the dean.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Joanne?
I was just going to say, at our visit in November, Donna McCauley's on here. She was our lead visitor. And we actually combined the department chair and the dean into the initial meeting because our department chair is not our program coordinator. So we did those two together, and it seemed to work out well.
Makes sense. Other questions?
Yeah, this is Deb. Mike Bradley posted a note. He did two fully virtual meetings. He can't decide if packing them into 2 days or spread them out over the week is the best approach. And so I was wondering if Mike would be willing to share a little bit about the pros and cons of each approach.
So Mike, when you're going to do that, the first one you did with me, and that was spread out over 3 days. I'm guessing your second one was the 2-day one?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I wasn't going to do my video because I wasn't prepared. The first one was with you, the second one was with Donna with Texas State, and it was a little bit more spread out. Overall, because of the both virtual, I was on campus the entire week for both of them. So I still had obligations related to teaching other things in the department, and then also at home. So every day was a matter of juggling a lot of things in order to make things happen. So I felt like the more condensed version was better for me. I could, pick a couple of days and have everything canceled and make adjustments. And the one that was a little bit more spread out, I thought that's the one I would like a little bit more, but after dealing with it, I think that the spreading it out was a little bit more hectic for me, trying to piecemeal other obligations into the schedule. And I hope that answers the question. If not, I can try again.
Well, I actually think you make a good point. And I think one of the things we need to take into consideration is, as a visitor, we're letting council know that we're going to be available during that time slot for that week. But that's where it's so critical to work with the program and the individual visitors' needs, because we're in different times. Many of our visitors are at home with their kids while they're in school, or there are other obligations of care that are taking place on our homes. So I think if you take into consideration the visitors and the program and kind of find that balance in between those pieces, to schedule the meeting as best as possible that way. And for some, it's going to be great to be more condensed, and for other people, it'll work out to be spread out throughout the week.
I'll just make a comment regarding that that challenge of scheduling for virtual as well. Is I think that, a way that we might find ourselves challenged to make those schedules work is because it's virtual. We're surrounded by the obligations that we would normally have when we're not doing a visit. And if we were doing an on-site visit, we would be blocking out that time, and we would not be there. We wouldn't be surrounded by these other obligations. We would be physically somewhere else. And so I think it is a little more challenging, especially when you're juggling childcare and, what other obligations we have when we're either at home or at work on campus. I know personally what I'm going to try to do is block out that time as if I were not on campus, and that's not going to be possible for everybody. But I think that's how I'm going to plan to manage that week, or at least that 3 days of concentrated meetings. Is I'm just going to block out my schedule as if I'm not there. Give my classes alternate things to do as I would if I were off campus. And I think we all have to come up with our own strategies for managing that.
Yeah, Bob?
Yeah, Meredith, quick question. This might be obvious, but so it looks like the primary meetings are the ones that are clearly the most important, and some of the secondary meetings are going to be maybe more idiosyncratic to the program depending on the self-study. So are we essentially kind of giving them the sort of schedule as a guide, but then they would ultimately decide which of those meetings was most important? I guess how much of the scheduling is on us and how much of it is on them in terms of deciding who we're meeting with and when and why?
So that's a great question. So what it really comes down to is, as a visitor lead, you are going to get council's review of the self-study. And so it's up to you to look at the reviewer's comments and to find what components that they are suggesting that you ask more questions about. So in order to answer each of those standards, and that one Excel spreadsheet I had up shows which standards specifically we're looking at. Let me see if I can pull it up again. Oh, I don't have it. I closed it, sorry. But what specific standards we're looking at for the program that have been identified by the council lead and second that are of question or need more clarification. And so those are going to guide those secondary meetings. There's also, in my experience, been some kind of standard secondary meetings, like meeting with student groups, meeting with alumni, internship supervisors, meeting with classes. Those types of meetings have kind of been always standard in the accreditation visit, just to allow you to answer the questions on the 4.0, 5.0, and 6.0 standards, so, and 3.0. So from a standpoint, you can have kind of the secondary ones that you know are needed, but then you can add anything else in there that you need to, that might be something that the council's identified as look more into this information. Other questions?
Meredith, this is just a comment to dovetail on the video that you shared. That that was one way for the program to address the standards in the 6.0 series. I just wanted to remind the visitors, because I'm not sure that all programs were as attentive. I know as a council reviewer, I reviewed one self-study that did not provide visual evidence. And so that's going to be one of the directions that I give to the visitors, is that that they provide, or that they seek out visual evidence of these particular standards. And it was communicated in a COAPRT memo from the chair, from Patty, in our fall memo, the fall COAPRT memo, which is on the website. So if anybody wants to reference that, you just go to the website and it's under news, fall 2020 memo. And it says that programs are responsible for providing visual evidence that standards 6.02, 03, 04, and 06 are met. So, we didn't, as a council, we did not specify specific method of providing visual evidence. It might be photographs, it might be a video. They might walk around with their cell phone while you're on there. I wouldn't suggest that because of connectivity issues, but it is an expectation.
And also, let me just jump in here. This is Patty. To Sid's point, that programs did not have that information when they were doing their self-studies. You may have said that, Sid, sorry if you did, but they didn't. So most of the self-studies did not provide it. So as visitors, if you're the lead visitor, you will need to request that ahead of time or plan for it on site. But so it's not a shortcoming of the programs, that expectation hadn't been communicated to them for most when they were working on their self-study.
Joanne?
Yeah, I just wanted to point of clarification. I know that when I was working on my self-study, I talked to Shelley or emailed back and forth with Shelley several times, because I do know that in the past we have provided evidence, right? Although a lot of it was provided when they were on site. And so I was trying to figure out a way that I could link as many things, because so many things in the self-study say provide a link to this information. And the directions that I was given said it has to be in a site that is not password protected and does not require somebody to get a different program. And so we kind of went back and forth, and we ended up putting as much stuff on our website as we could with links, like to our recreation website. But there were a lot of things that we really couldn't put there because it would violate HIPAA regulations and things like that. So we felt really stuck, and it was really challenging. And now I'm on a committee. We're going to Old Dominion, Chris Nunes and I, in the spring, and it looks like they're actually going to use either Microsoft Teams or Google Docs, both of which require passwords to get in and stuff like that. So has that changed? Have you guys just loosened up and say, however you can do it, do it? Because that was very confusing to me.
Patty or Sid, do you want to answer that?
Well, the short answer to, I guess, is yes. In a way, it's been loosened up in that we just want to make sure that, yeah, the passwords aren't needed. We put out, several universities have used Box as well. That's what we did, and Box worked great. I had to learn how to do it without the password. It took a few times, but so that's the short answer. Sid, you can probably give a better answer with the detail that you had going into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can give a better answer necessarily, other than I think it's a learning curve for all of us. You know, on one hand, you know, doing the virtual visit makes everything a lot more efficient and convenient in terms of time and cost. You know, it's a huge benefit both to our programs as well as our visitors, you know, in that regard, except that the fact you don't get to travel. But as far as the access to the documents, I think, yeah, we're kind of learning as we go, I think. I've seen where some programs have used Google Drive, and then they just set the permissions for all access, but you have to have the link in order to access it. So it's not out there for the entire world to see, because they can't actually go to that link because they don't know it exists. But if you open up the sharing permissions so that you don't have to be on in that campus system, you don't have to have a special invite to view that information. I mean, there are settings for that. I think Dropbox, I think Box, I mean, I think they all have those kinds of universal settings. It's just a matter of learning the system that you're using and making sure that other people will have access to it without having to jump through a lot of hoops.
Yeah, Sid, we had a similar situation just going through promotion and tenure packets, you know, and external reviewers and who to give access to, both internally and externally. But we use multiple formats here, but MS Teams, whoever is lead or whoever created it, in my case, I created it, I just gave access at different times to different people, but it didn't require any password. It just required a link, you know, and it's been really super easy. You don't have to be tech savvy at all, except know how to click a link. And assuming you can do that, you know, any normal document that you would normally provide that you would have to look at can be uploaded onto there, in addition to videos and whatnot. So, you know, it's if the issue is a password protection issue, I think there are things that have been created since the pandemic started that don't require access. You can even do it to some extent using Dropbox, you know, and giving access to some and not others. So I think there are different ways to sort of facilitate this without being overly arduous or prescriptive.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I think prescriptive would make it more challenging. You know, each user has the platforms that they're using, so they just need to make sure that they are allowing the permission on their platform. And I have seen it where, sorry for the dog there. In a self-study that I just reviewed, I'm able to access some documents and not others. And so the visitors at that point are going to have to notify the program, hey, we can't, you've provided these links in your 7.0 series to artifacts or results, and we can't see them. So they're going to have to work that out.
That's where I had shared earlier, your communication with the contact person on the campus for accreditation is critical. Just to give you a horror story, the Southern Connecticut visit was actually put together for a in-person visit. I think it was last spring, a year ago. And then with COVID, it was pushed off to the fall. And then it was put from an in-person visit in the fall to a virtual visit. And in the meantime, the self-study had been submitted way long ago, and the campus had totally changed their website and the platform for their website. And so every single one of the links that came with the self-study no longer worked. And so the campus contact had to work with me to go through and get all the new links that I was able to go into to share with the team for every single one of those pieces, because the old ones no longer worked. So that avenue of communication between you and that campus contact is critical. Any other questions? I know it's past 10, and so we said this was an hour long, so I don't want to hold up any of you past what we're supposed to. I'm happy to share anything you need. Please email me directly and I can send you a lot of the materials that I have. I'll also send those to Britt. I see that the visit example's already been added in, but and we'll give her she has the PowerPoint, so she can share that with you as well. Edwin, you're muted.
I did get that link to Submittable to look at the COAPRT folders. When I go in there, it's blank. Is there going to be population there soon? Or when does it get populated? Or who does the populating? I'm just curious because I did accept it. It's just a blank slate.
Yeah, this is Britt. I'm working with Patty to pass once the self-studies are approved by Patty, then I can assign the visitors. So I'm working with her and we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's today to make sure everybody has access.
Yeah, and like I put in the chat earlier, we're about done with them. The initial reviews all been done on all of them. Some needed to revise some links. I just spot checked links. So like Sid said, he found some that still didn't work. I didn't go through link by link or every link. But if the ones I checked worked and they met the 1.0 criteria of eligibility, then they were sent forward as approved and the visit could go forward to be planned. If the ones I checked didn't work or some didn't work, then we asked for revisions. And so the last round of those revisions should be in this week. And then I can look at them again and we can turn around and get it back out. So.
Thank you very much. This is Teresa. I'm also having the challenge. I just got into Submittable, but it is blank for president. I'm just wondering. Okay, I see Britt's chatting with me also. So we'll get taken care of. Thank you very much.
Yeah. It's great seeing everyone. Stay warm. I'm sending my weather to you.